Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coach's Quarter, presented by Squirtle as we preview one of two Class A semifinal matchups. I'm Todd Miller. We're visiting with the third-year head coach of the Pawhuska Huskies, Matt Hennesy. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Exciting times in Pawhuska. You guys have steadily climbed the ranks, and now you find yourself in the state semifinals here in 2020.
Yeah, I knew when I took the job, it's a good place. I always say there's five things you got to have that I look for if I'm going to take a job. First thing, you got to have players. And I knew there was good players coming. They were coming off an 0-10 season, hadn't had much success, but I knew, their 8th and 9th grade hadn't lost a game in a while. There's some good players coming. You got to have good coaches, and they were going to allow me to hire who I needed to hire. You got to have a good administration and staff, and that's dialed in, and I knew who the administration was, so I felt comfortable with that. And then you got to have good parents and a good community. This community is so hungry, and our parents they're just willing to do whatever it takes to win. So it's been a good fit. All five of those things were here, and I think it's shown by how fast we've gone from 0-10 to 12-0.
You talk about the community. That's something I wanted to bring up next. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to be a very successful athletic program at the high school level. And when we were over there in the first month of the season, Matt, I hadn't been on your campus in years. In fact, over a decade. I was blown away by the changes that have taken place around the Pawhuska football program.
There's been a huge commitment. And not just to football, but to athletics in general, to the schools in general, to our whole school district. And I think, Pawhuska was about to turn into a ghost town when the oil boom bust hit, all those things happened. But it's no secret the Pioneer Woman, when that took off, when the Drummonds took off with that, it revitalized the town. I joke all the time. I got more friends wanting to come see me now than ever, but it's because Pawhuska's basically turned into a little Branson almost. Before COVID hit, there were 6,000 tourists going through here a day. So there's a lot of little businesses popping up, and and everybody wants to be involved, and that's the beautiful thing. It's still small town football. It's one of the things. When I went from 6A to 3A, when Mr. Cash talked me into coming to Locust Grove, I'd never been at a small school, and the thing that I still say to this day, I love it because on Friday nights, it's just like Friday Night Lights says, if you want to rob Pawhuska, come on Friday night because everybody's at the football game. Town shuts down. Everybody's got clothes to go to the football game, and everybody's here. Now, this year's a little different just with COVID. I think everything's different this year. Obviously, 2020 is definitely a unique year, but it's still the support we get, the people wanting to feed us, people taking care of us. And our facilities are top-notch. For a Class A school, there's nobody's got better facilities. I think ours even rival with most 3A and 4A, 5A schools.
Man, I've got to ask you, I know that the community was hungry. I know you had some great athletes coming up. That's all fine and dandy, but those kids can't rest on their past success at the junior high level. That doesn't always guarantee success at the high school level. The program had not been successful. It's a credit to your kids, isn't it, that so quickly they bought in, put in the work and the time to try and get this thing turned around as quickly as they could.
There's no doubt. I walked into the first meeting and said, hey, here's the thing. If we're going to do this, if you guys really want to do it, we got to go to work. We started lifting at 6:30. We lifted at 6:30 this morning. We're lifting 3 times a week right now. And when we don't, we have meetings at 6:30. When the kids are up here at 6:30 every day, and we started that next day. And it takes a trust to buy into that. That doesn't always happen because, some other guys have probably said it too. But I think a little bit of it's a credit to this, of how these kids are raised. A lot of them, out on the ranches, they're all working. They're used to getting up early and they're used to working. And I don't know how much of that had been done before. So when they saw that kind of excited them. And they didn't like the way it was. It's another reason why I kind of enjoy going over. People keep asking me, why do I keep going taking over programs that are 0-10 or not successful? Well, one, they don't argue with how you want to do it because they want change. It's not, well, this is how we've always done it. We don't want to do it how we did do it. Let's go see something different. And then, to have that little bit of success the first year, we went 6-5 the first year, but we made the playoffs. And I think that just made it with only one senior. And I think that made them even more hungry. And those kids, now we graduated a good group of seniors last year. And, when we got beat, we had a couple injuries before the Ringling game and lost that game. These kids have done everything you've asked, and that's the beauty of a takeover program if they're willing to just do whatever you ask. And then when it gets right down to it, at the end of the day, to win a state title, you got to stay healthy and you got to catch a break along the way.
Man, how special is this?
Our district wasn't particularly tough, so our kids didn't play the second half of most games. We ended up getting a bye the first 2 rounds. I hated it at the time, but now I'm sitting there thinking, okay, maybe it wasn't so bad because we're pretty healthy right now. And then, now you get to the time where everybody's good. So hopefully we stay healthy through the game and catch a break somewhere.
Pawhuska head coach Matt Hennesy is our guest on Coach's Corner, powered by Squirtle. Matt, I started to ask you, how special is this senior class to you? Because they're really your first senior class that's been with you for the 3 full years that you've been in Pawhuska. And they're the group that really started to turn this thing around and now has seen the fruits of their labor propel them into the semifinals and perhaps beyond.
Yeah, they're a special group. And we don't have a lot of senior starters. Really, we've got majority of our group coming back next year. We expect to be just as good next year. But the thing these seniors have brought, and even last year's seniors brought, is they had experienced the failure. They had experienced the 0-10 season. They had experienced all that. So they've got something to remember and remind these other kids about. Our juniors and sophomores, all they've done is win. So they don't know any different. But these seniors can still remind them of that stuff. And last year's class, I call them the foundation. I still have Coach Snyder. I was lucky enough to play for Bill Snyder at Kansas State when he came in. I was a senior when he came in. So, and I'm part of the foundation. My name's on the wall there with him, a group that he had. And so I steal a lot from him on how to turn programs around. I think a big part of it is building that foundation first so this success carries on. We had a bunch of our last year's seniors out at practice yesterday, still out there doing whatever they can, wanting to be involved, because I think that's truly important. It was real important to me to get the community back involved when I first got here and get the alumni back involved, get people wanting to wear Pawhuska gear. That's the saddest thing for me when I go into a program that's down is when they leave and go to Tulsa or go somewhere for the week, nobody wants to wear Pawhuska gear. They don't want anybody to know it's where they're from. Now everybody wants to wear it. And so, getting that community back involved, but that alumni. But this senior group, now don't make no doubt about it. I think, Bryce is the top quarterback in the class, if not one of them. And then you got Jamar Goff, who's just become a dominant player, as a senior. And then Dylan Doyle, who started every game in his high school career. He started every game as a freshman and took those whoopings. Now he's starting on our offensive line. He's one of our captains. So, those guys are just they fight through. And then our other seniors are good leaders too. But I think it all starts with those 3.
We'll talk about those guys individually in just a moment, but talk about coaching in 2020. I mean, you faced some challenges that you couldn't have in your wildest dreams ever thought you would encounter. And you mentioned the 2-week layoff of the playoffs. You come back and maybe a little bit rusty, knock the rust off very quickly, beat Warner, and then kind of rolled again last week. So it kind of looks like you guys haven't really missed a lot despite that 2-week layoff.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique year. I made the joke that I was talking to Coach Lancaster, who's one of my, my mentors. Obviously, I played for him and coached for him. He taught me a lot. I told him, I said, whoever wins it this year, the ring ought to be twice as big, because you deal with so many things that you've never had to deal with before. I've got the JV over in another locker room so we can socially distance in the locker room. We wear masks everywhere we go. I have to move everything into small groups. All my meetings are on timers, so they're all set at 10 minutes. So at 13 minutes, you got to go. It's helped us so far. We've had a couple positive cases, in our school, like everybody else has. We haven't had to, off contact tracing, we haven't lost anybody yet, knock on wood. But being that diligent and all the things you're having to do besides just coach football has made it tough. And on the kids, I think it's taken away from some of the stuff for them. It's Friday night after the games. All right, you guys aren't going and hanging out with your friends. You're not going here. You're not going to go do this weekend. You can't go watch college football. You can't go on recruiting trips. You can't. All these things they're getting out of. But I think at the end of the day too, I think it makes that commitment even more. We talk about the things you sacrifice and the things about the commitment. This year it's even more so because you got to do so much more than just, play football. So I saw a quote from the Indiana coach last year when he took the job. He says, there are a lot of things you can't control, so just as we all say, control what you control. But he said, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to work as hard as I can. I'm going to let God handle the rest. You know, I think that's even more important this year. Just work as hard as you can, control what you can control, and then God will figure out the rest for you.
Okay, I want to talk about Bryce Drummond. Of course, everybody asks you about him ad nauseum, I'm certain. I had a chance to meet him when we were over there in the first month of the season, a very humble kid. But the thing I've always heard about Bryce is not only is he very good, he's a great leader, but he's maybe the hardest working guy that you have in the program. And I think that says a lot about his character.
It does. I mean, he comes by it honest. Now, obviously, he's from a family that financially he probably wouldn't have to, but his dad and I even talked about that. He said, yeah, my kids probably never have to work again if they didn't want to, but we're not doing that. His dad's the hardest working guy I've ever met. He may be the only guy that tries to put in more hours than I do. And we're probably only rivaled by his mom, who I don't even know if she ever sleeps. But they work extremely hard. So these kids are used to getting up, going out and working on the ranch. There was times when I first got here that I'd say, all right, we're starting at 6:30. And Bryce would roll in and have to take a shower before he started his workout because he'd already been out since 4 o'clock working out on the ranch. His dad had him out working cattle or doing whatever. So I knew immediately, you know, that Bryce played O-line his freshman year. And it wasn't that he wasn't he played quarterback in junior high. It's not like he's never played quarterback. He played quarterback in grade school and junior high. But he was just one of the biggest kids, so they put him on the O-line. And he's that team player. He'll do whatever it takes to win. He'd go play guard this week if I needed him to. He doesn't care about stats. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. But, you know, I met with his dad, and his dad said, hey, do you know any good quarterback trainers? I'd like to get Bryce to a quarterback trainer. And I said, well, I got one in Tulsa, but I'm not sure he's going to be our quarterback. At the time, I'm still thinking of Bryce probably going to be a tight end or middle linebacker, be my stud linebacker, which he would be if that's what he wanted to play. But and his dad's like, I don't care where he plays, but if we have to use him there, I want to make sure he's got, you know, all the chances he can get. And Bryce just went to work and went every day. I mean, I can't tell you how many times he's gone in the middle of this season to go work with his quarterback coach and just get extra throws in and do. His game has improved so much. I mean, his sophomore year, he was just big. He threw the ball good, decent, but didn't have any reads, just kind of played. But at that point, you're just trying to install your fundamentals and try to build your culture more than anything else that first year. Last year, he got better as it went, and then this year, getting to hire Mason Fine, having Mason here with me again to work with Bryce every day has been a true blessing. Bryce has taken his game above and beyond. The thing I see Bryce doing now is his checkdowns. It's not just chucking the ball deep every time. He's reading what the defense throws. He's changing the routes. It's next level stuff. It's college stuff. Bryce is going to graduate next week, and he's going to be at North Texas in 3 weeks. So he's going to graduate early and go, and I think he's going to step right in and be able to challenge for a spot there just because of what he's been able to do this year and how his game's improved.
I want to expand a little bit more on that Fine-Drummond relationship because it was kind of interesting. You brought Mason Fine in, who was kind of your first Bryce Drummond. I mean, you set all sorts of state records at Locust Grove. And ironically enough, Mason went on to be a record-setting quarterback at North Texas. Now he may be mentoring the guy that will someday eventually have a chance to break his records in Denton.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We joked this year that Bryce may, and up till we got the two buys, Bryce was on pace to beat his records this year. And we joked about it every week. Mason, of course, Mason's that same humble kid he's always been. You know, it was just a unique situation that worked out. I talked him into coming and working my youth camp for me. He was available, and I always like to have my guys come back and work those kids. And we've got a lot of Native Americans here in Pawhuska, and obviously Mason is Native American, so that was a neat deal getting him that part of it. But as he's working it, and he spent the week here, I was just like, what are you going to do this season? Well, I'm just going to stay at home and train and hope I get the call. The pandemic hasn't damaged anybody's career more than Mason's. I truly believe he'd be on an NFL roster right now had he been able to do the one-on-one interviews, the one-on-one workouts, the things where you're not just going by his height, where you're going actually seeing what he can do, and all that stuff got canceled. But he showed up, so I said, well, I got a better idea. Why don't you stay here? We'll get you a place to live. We'll pay you to coach. And you stay here and you train here because you don't have anybody to throw to back home. You can throw to my guys. You can throw every day if you want to. And if you get a phone call, great. He did get a call. He was gone for about a week. He had a tryout with the Bears. They chose not to add another quarterback, so he was back here within a week. And now it's looked like he's got a Canadian offer, and he's got some other things on the table. So, but yeah, just getting him here. And the other thing I told him is this will let you decide if you want to go into coaching or not after this. Plus, it'll let your mind stay right and stay in the game. But it's been a blessing for not only for Bryce, but for me, helping me. I've switched over to, after however many years of calling defense. Last year, I switched over to offense and called the offense. So it's helped me learn a lot too as we've gone through it. And I think we're good for each other because I'm helping him with the run game. He's helping us with the pass game. It's been a nice little fit.
Okay, a couple more questions for you. Let's move quickly to the defensive side of the football. When I talked to you after your game against Victory Christian, you said, we've got to get better, and we've got to get better in a hurry. I don't know what our district schedule is going to be, but I do know if we don't get better on the defensive side of the football, we're not going to accomplish what we want because there's going to be teams that will be able to keep the ball out of our offense's hands. It would really appear to me, Matt, that really since that Victory Christian game, you guys have gotten a lot better defensively.
We're playing good defense. And, and as always, it's never as, till you watch the film, it's never as good as you think it was. It's never as bad as you think it was. There was a lot of chuck and duck on that offense. The points we gave up that game, they were basically just chucking it. And the quarterback threw good balls. And it turns out Victory went pretty far with that quarterback throwing to those fast receivers. But, Jamar Goff dominates. And our front three, I think, is as good as anybody in the States with Hagan McGuire and Lashara Wildcat and Dylan and Jamar Goff. And now we've gone to a four-man front some too with Dylan Doyle. And then Jack Long's back at outside backer. He led the state in sacks last year and playing extremely well. And then I think, Dalton Hurd and Mason Gilkey, I think, are the top two receiver combo in the state, with the two guys. I don't know if either one of them's the best, but the two of them together give us something that nobody else has, of two guys that are that dangerous. But they play defense a lot too. And Coach Fry's done a good job with that defense and just mixing it up. But we're still living by what I've always lived by defensively. We're going to pressure you, and we're going to have great pursuit. And the comment I get more than anything else is how fast our defense is. We run to the ball as good as anybody. So we're going to definitely have to do this week. So they've got there's no doubt that Cashion's loaded offensively.
Okay, how about Jamar Goff and the Doyle kid on the offensive line? What does it say to those kids that they show up every day? They overcome long odds. I mean, Jamar only played 5 games last year and looks to be better than he's ever been this year. Their work ethic to lead physically on this football team has to be very impressive to the younger kids.
They do. And it all starts with Dylan, and he's such a physical kid. And, you want your lineman to be dirty, play within the rules of the game, but just be nasty up front. And he definitely is. Jamar's is a big athlete. I mean, it's crazy. He's 6'5", 300, and he's got hands. I mean, he can run. He's coming to his own. He's never played football till last year, and he got hurt before the season started. And so really this is his first year to play football. I know that that UCO and Emporia, all those guys, they're here 3 times a week right now, camping out, and so happy that the D1s can't get out. I mean, it's hurting Jamar too, because I promise you, if D1s were able to just step on here and meet him personally and see him physically, they would offer. Right now, all they got's film, and it's playing against Class A competition. So it's like, well, don't know, maybe whatever. But they work so hard. Our whole team, and I think it all starts with Coach Atterbury. Coach Atterbury was a legend here. I did my student teaching for him here way back a million years ago. And Coach came back. We hired him last year, and he found out he had cancer. He went and got chemo yesterday and came to practice.
Wow.
And these kids know they found out that we thought the cancer had gotten back in his hip because he's having a lot of hip problems. About 4 weeks ago, he goes to the orthopedic guy. He's got a fractured hip from getting knocked down in practice. He talks him into wait until after the season to do surgery, so he's on a crutch. And just that toughness and his work ethic and all our coaches, I think you got to lead by example. Those kids know there's not going to be many times they drive by this office that my car's not here. And I think that's important for them to know that, hey, we'll put in the time, and so are the coaches. So my coaches are doing a great job.
All right, last question. Let's talk about the matchup coming up against Cashion. This is 2 programs that seemingly have been on a collision course since week 1. It's a game that so many people have anticipated. What's your thoughts on the Wildcats? They're obviously very, very talented.
They definitely are. Collision course is right. I mean, we've been talking about them. Lynn and his staff do a great job. I actually met with Lynn probably about week 7. We were somewhere together and talking, and I said, you know what, why don't we just start trading film now? So we did. They've got every film on us. We've got every film on them. I just send him the film after the game. He'd send us his film. So we're going to be really familiar with each other. There's not going to be anything tricky. And I think we mirror each other in a lot of ways. As far as they're very talented at receiver and athletic. You know, we don't have that big running back like that, the big monster that they got at running back. But I think we've got, you know, they don't have a big old quarterback either. So, you know, I think there's a few differences, but as far as that goes, they play extremely hard. They're used to winning. So I told my kids they won this game last year. They're used to being in the finals. Something we haven't done. The advantage we got is getting it at home. But it's definitely, I think, well, obviously because we're down to the Final Four, but two of the best teams in the state. And it's going to come down the line. And it's not coach speak. I mean, everybody always says it's coach speak, but it's not. It's going to be whoever makes the fewest mistakes, whoever starts fast, and whoever has the fewest turnovers, penalties, you know, those little things, and catches a break. Somewhere along the way, you're going to have to catch a break in that game. And it's going to be down to the last 48 minutes and see what happens.
Coach, appreciate the time. Good luck. Congratulations on a great season, a great 3 years in Pawhuska, and we'll see you on Friday night.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Matt Hennesy, third-year head coach at Pawhuska, our guest on Coach's Corner, powered by Squirtle.